The selfless actions of men under fire never cease to amaze, from the feats of Johnson Bahari in 2004 to the countless other acts of gallantry that make up the rich history of recipients of the Victoria Cross. I've always been awestruck by these men and their feats of unfathomable courage, and the man I'm going to be talking about in today's video is no exception. But before we begin, please don't forget to subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you. Samuel George Pearse won two of the highest awards for bravery that can be awarded by the British Armed Forces, and he did it over the course of two conflicts. Born in Penarth, Wales, on the 16th of July 1897, Pearse would later emigrate to Australia in 1911. Before the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, he had already seen some initial military service in the 73rd Infantry Regiment, a militia that is now known as the Australian Army Reserve. Joining the Australian Imperial Force, the AIF, on the 5th of July 1915, he was attached to 7th Battalion, the 9th Reinforcement, and on the 10th of September 1915, set sail on the Star of Victoria to provide relief for the battalion fighting in the Dardanelles. The Gallipoli campaign had started in February of that year, but by the time Pearse set foot on Turkish soil in December of 1915, the act of withdrawing ANZAC forces had begun. However, Pearse did see action, serving in the line for a couple of weeks before his battalion was evacuated. He later transferred to the 2nd Machine Gun Company soon after his withdrawal from Gallipoli. Pearse now found himself fighting the Kaiser's army on the Western Front, serving in the trenches close to Pozieres during the Battle of the Somme. He was wounded in action on the 24th of August 1916, but recovered quickly and returned to the company. By September 1917, Pearse and the 2nd Infantry Brigade were fighting the 3rd Battle of Amiens, serving close to Glencorse Wood east of Ypres. On the night of the 18th of September, Pearse saw enemy movement in the front of his position. He snuck forward alone and attacked the Germans he had seen. For this action, among others, he was awarded the Military Medal. Pearse's citation reads, "This man, while on outpost duty in a post on the western edge of Glencorse Wood, saw a light shine momentarily in a German post some distance in front, and after warning his comrades, crept alone and dropped his bombs into their position, causing casualties to the enemy who evacuated the post." When armistice was declared on the 11th of November 1918, another war was still raging in mainland Europe. The Russian Civil War had been raging since November 1917, and Russia had pulled out of the Great War to fight its own internal struggle, with the Bolshevik Red Army seeking to overthrow the White Russian forces loyal to the Tsar. An Allied force was set up to aid the White Russian forces and was made up of British, American, Canadian, French, Polish, and Italian volunteers amongst others, dubbed the North Russia Relief Force. Volunteering for the NRRL, Pearse was demobbed from the AIF and soon re-enrolled into the British Army, and soon found himself promoted to sergeant on the account of his exploits on the Western Front, still a young man at the age of 22. He served in the 45th Battalion Royal Fusiliers that was made up of predominantly Australian volunteers. They kept their iconic slouch hats and distinctive AIF service dress jackets. Pearse and his men were positioned north of Yemsta, North Russia, and were tasked with engaging an enemy gun position and its surrounding defences. During the fighting, Pearse would win the Victoria Cross.
We attacked Yemsta, or attacked this artillery post outside Yemsta at about 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning. The artillery post was surrounded with trenches and barbed wire entanglement. We enfiladed along the trench to keep the heads down a bit, and Sergeant Pearse cut the wire and dashed in, and of course the troops went in after him, and they started to fire from a blockhouse which was covering the trenches too, and covering where they were getting in. And he stood there taking the pins out of Mill's bombs and pitching them inside. And he got skittled, poor fellow. He got shot to pieces. And we got the VC for that, because it saved a lot of lives.
The London Gazette reported his actions on the 21st of October 1919. Sergeant Pearse cut his way through enemy barbed wire under very heavy machine gun and rifle fire and cleared a way for the troops to enter an enemy battery position. Seeing that a blockhouse was harassing our advance, and causing his casualties, he charged a blockhouse single-handed, killing the occupants with bombs. This gallant, non-commissioned officer met his death a minute later, and it was due to him that the position was carried with so few casualties. Pearse was buried in a military cemetery close to the Obuzkaya railway station between Yemsta and Archangel. His grave was thought to be lost after the war, but in 2018, after an extensive search by a team of Russian archaeologists, they uncovered what is now thought to be his original grave from 1919. A small ceremony was held in his honour in 2019 for the 100th anniversary of his VC action. The spotless image of VC winners portrayed by the media is not often always the case. Not all men who join the armed forces are model soldiers. Pearse was no exception to this and had been reprimanded for being absent from guard duty in 1916. He was also later court-martialed in August 1918 for being absent without leave. For this, he was docked 31 days' pay. These discrepancies go against what we think of when we conjure up images of wartime heroics, but these instances of disobedience did not seem to greatly affect Samuel George Pearse's military career, as he served with distinction and was promoted no less than 3 times during his service. It merely shows a man of free will and conviction for his own actions, something that runs through the history of men who win medals like the Victoria Cross. They are brave and bold and hold a special place in the annals of military history. From the beaches of Gallipoli to the trenches of Yemsta, the heroism of Samuel George Pearse should never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and I'll catch you again in the next one.